I bought my first race car probably in about 1997, something like that. And I guess it's gone downhill from there. Gotta confess that I did always love cars and motorcycles, and I always loved racing. But really, the key event that made this happen is that at the University of Michigan from 1987 for, I don't know, 8 years, we did a big executive education program with Ford Motor Company. The conference was at a racetrack called Brands Hatch, this famous old racetrack that's southeast of England. And I'd go to the track for the day and try to stay awake, and that was kind of the first mistake. The second mistake was that they had a driving school there. They had what's now the Nigel Mansell, driving school. And so one time when things were a little slow and I had a couple of days off from teaching, I ventured out onto the track, and it was a lot of fun. I really enjoyed it a lot. It was pretty difficult, but I also did pretty well at it. And so that's where it started. For 3 or 4 years, we did a race series in Canada. That was the Formula Ford 1600 race series in Canada. And the Canadians are wild for racing and for open wheel racing, sports car racing. So the Formula Ford series in Canada, we were a support race for really big races. The Formula One race in Montreal for 3 or 4 years, the Molson Indy in downtown Toronto, going 125 miles an hour down Lakeshore Boulevard. That Mosport with the American Le Mans series was also really exciting. That was the first time that I'd ever raced on a track where there was a jumbotron. And so, you're driving down the front straightaway between the 2 grandstands into the first turn, which is a pretty challenging turn. And there's a jumbotron that's like, 50 feet, high right in front of you. And so I sort of went, oh my God, that's me. And at that moment I spun out. And so that was kind of an exciting moment. A good race has a lot of different components. The most basic one is that the competition is close. Sometimes it's exciting when the lead changes lap to lap or 2 or 3 times and people are passing back and forth. Sometimes it's also very exciting when there's not a lot of passing, but the cars are in very, very close formation all the time. Sometimes it's really exciting though, where one car is kind of coming from behind, and they've obviously got some advantages, and then you see, well, you're gaining on this guy at a half a second a lap. You're 3 seconds behind and there's 5 laps to go. Well, do the math. This means that, yeah, I've got enough momentum to pass if the race goes on forever, but it doesn't. It's going to end in 5 laps. So can I get her done between now and the end of the race? And the level of competition all the way down the field is also a key part to an interesting race. A lot of times the race for the win's between 2 cars. But funny thing, even if you know that before the race, nobody will come out to the track to watch 2 cars race. And so it's also exciting when you've got a great race for the lead, but you've also got a great race for 5th place, 10th place, 25th place. And maybe that's just the perspective of somebody that's far too often in an exciting race for, like 20th place, rather than the lead. Things can change incredibly quickly. Sometimes you've got 4 cars going into a turn together on the last lap, the last turn, and there's no idea how things are going to turn out. When it's unpredictable, that ends up being an entertaining race. We do events throughout the year at different locations. Our next race will be at Summit Point, West Virginia. That's about an hour outside of Washington, D.C. And later on in the fall is at Watkins Glen, New York. We always publish the racing schedule on our website, and we'd always be glad to have you join us, and always be glad to give you a tour of the track and a tour of the cars and the paddock. Hope to see you there.